Welcome everyone to another edition of Play It Through, and on this edition it's Muppet Adventure, Chaos at the Carnival, brought to us by High Tech. In Muppet Adventure, you play as several different Muppets as they try to save Piggy, who was kidnapped. So to save Miss Piggy, you actually have to play 4 different mini-games in order to collect keys at the end of each, in order to get to the final stage where you actually can save her. So here we go with Muppet Adventure, Chaos at the Carnival. At the beginning of the game, before you get to select what game you want to start with, you get a brief story. After you get your story, you can select from one of 4 different minigames to start off with. I'll be playing them in the order from top to bottom, so we're going to start with River Ride, where you actually play as Kermit on his way down a river. The controls right away, as you'll find out, are very slippery, and the hit detection is really weird as well. This is probably, though, one of the better of the 4 minigames. You can see your health at the bottom of the screen, which is located on the power meter. You have 5 hearts to start with. To the right of that is Rides, which is how many lives you have left. You start with 10 lives. You can gain a lot of extra lives throughout the course of the game. And to the left of that is your score, which by collecting objects as well as defeating enemies in different minigames will garner higher scores. In the River Ride game, you control Kermit left or right, but you can never come to a complete stop. You can only slow down by pressing the up button, or you can go a little bit faster by hitting the down button. While riding down the river, you can collect a few different objects to increase your score. The only object that you must collect, though, is the key, which is located at the end, which will complete this level. The river ride is broken up into 2 segments, and you'll find Fozzy. The rocks, the logs, and of course the sides will damage you when you run into them, and there's a few spots like that one right there where you must get past the rocks all the way to the right, because you can get stuck and you'll end up losing a life. The whirlpools will push and pull you in the different directions. If you're going fast into a whirlpool, it will throw you faster into the rocks. So it's a good idea to slow down as much as possible if you're gonna have to run into one of the whirlpools. In River Ride, along with the other games in this game collection, are really only done well by doing them over and over again. Knowing when the logs are coming out, when the rocks are coming up, when to slow down, when to speed up, it really comes down to just doing them a few times so you get a better idea of what's coming next. And while that will really help you with this minigame in particular, the other few also has to be luck and learning the really sloppy controls. Like I said before, this is probably the best controlling of the minigames that's available in this collection. Once we reach the end, we grab the key. We get a little notice telling us that we've collected the key, but we still need to collect the other keys, and then we get to select our next minigame. Next up is the car course, where you're playing as Animal as he rides a bumper car. The controls in this game are extremely sloppy, and you're going to find yourself flying all over the course when all you want to do is go a little bit down. Just going straight in this game can be a hassle because you're slightly moving down or up depending upon when you're moving straight. The only true way to actually go straight is to hug the top wall or the bottom wall. There's several different segments with different obstacles in each segment. We started off with just a few of those bombs that were laying around, but then the next section has oil slicks along with these cans set up. The cans do not hurt you, and the oil slicks will only spin you in a different direction and avoid the bombs at all times. So this segment is extremely easy to deal with. The next segment has a line of bombs with one bomb missing in each line. You have to know what bomb's missing so that you can move in between it. It starts off at the top and then goes to the next one down and then so forth all the way down to the bottom and then repeats for the first two set of lines, so it's extremely easy to get through this section. Once you're through that, you have a series of bumpers. It starts off with one bumper on top and then one behind it that's to the bottom. So you have to go in between these bumpers alternating up and down to go through them so you don't bounce off the bumpers and end up flying into one of the bombs. If you don't take your time like I did right there, you're going to end up crashing into one of those bombs and lose a piece of health. What it comes down to in this game to get good at it is taking your time. You really want to slow up when you're about to hit a certain line of bombs so that you don't accidentally run into them and you can exactly measure where you want to be before moving through. The next section is another whole section of lines of bombs. But here we actually have a pedestal that slowly pushes upwards, and while it's in the up position it will knock you into one of the bombs. So you have to be very careful and slow down and then go over it once it's completely down. This is probably the most difficult section to get through, and you're going to find yourself probably losing a health or two your first time through this area. Once you're finally through that section, you now have another set of the oil slicks with the trash cans. Once again, this section is just as easy as before, so just head straight through. Even if you had the oil slicks, they can't damage you. So just move through very quickly, you should have no problem here. Once you're through that section, hug the bottom wall. Because even though there's a few items that you can get some score, it's just safer to hang on to the bottom wall and just avoid all the bumpers that are moving back and forth. If you hug the bottom wall, you'll never run into any of those bumpers. Once you get past these bumpers though, it's the key, which is going to be located in between two bombs, and it's in the direct center of the screen. So be ready to move up to the center of the screen, and in case you're low on health, make sure you don't run into any of those bombs. Go up, grab the key, and you've completed the car course. We now have only 2 more minigames to go before the final stage of the game. Next up is Space Ride, where you control Gonzo in a spaceship going through the asteroids. The game actually controls a lot like asteroids, where you can spin your ship all the way around in a circle to shoot in many different directions. However, your ship never stops moving. And it really won't be so bad until later on in the level, when you're going to have smaller quarters to go through, and trying to aim up your shot against certain enemies can be a real pain. The whole beginning section is extremely easy, it's just getting used to the controls. If the whole game was like this, it wouldn't be so bad and you really wouldn't have too much trouble getting through this. However, the real problems and where this game gets really bad is just coming up in just a little while. And even though you can boost in this game, it's really not too much help because it's a little bit of a delay between when you actually start moving quicker from the boost. So trying to get away fast from a certain couple of objects is going to be almost impossible if it's coming right at you. Those containers, the one I picked up as you saw, gave me health. And these things are going to be your saving grace throughout here, especially coming up in a little bit. When there's multiple enemies coming at you at once, they can both hit you. When you take damage in this game, you don't have any period of invincibility. So you'll have to keep taking damage, so if things hit you 5 in a row, you'll instantly lose a life in a matter of only a second or two. After a little while, you can see that the spaceships start to get introduced that we also have to contend with. The ones from the left side that are rather large are probably the most painful to deal with, because you're going to have to completely turn around to damage them, and if you're too close to the left wall, they may run right into you without you even seeing them. If we want a big score boost as well as an extra life, you can grab the chickens located in their saucers. However, if you shoot any of those chickens, as well as if you shoot any pieces of health that are laying around, you will destroy them, so it's a real downside, especially when there's a lot of enemies on screen. Once you see the grays start to begin, and you're going to have to go through this cave, this is where the real problems begin in this whole thing. The enemies on the top and bottom are a real pain to deal with, and they're constantly shooting until you actually take them out. However, getting to them to actually be able to take them out, lining up your shot correctly,